Welcome to Mbuya Parent School and Kindergarten, situated in Kampala City with modern, well-equipped facilities plus extensive playing fields and amenities. Mbuya Parent School believes that a better future lies where children know how to find and create balances in themselves and the world around them. This explains our fusion of academic subjects and co-curricular activities. There are many opportunities presented to them to flourish both in and outside the classroom.
I want to become a president when I grow up.
I want to be a pilot.
I will be the best fashion designer.
Mbuya Parent School, the sky is our limit.
My dear candidates, I welcome you here to another lesson on letter writing. Our topic is still letter writing, but we are going to look at the grammar aspect of letter writing. And I expect that you enjoyed the first lessons that we have had in this topic. We have written a number of letters, and as I told you at the beginning of this topic, I told you it is one of the topics that are highly examinable at PLE level. So the more you practice, the better. So we shall keep practicing how to write letters. We went ahead to look at a number of structures that are used in the topic of letter writing. Among them, I remember we learned about the use of or else. We used looking forward to. We also used likely to. And this is one of the last structures that we use when we are describing aspects of letter writing. Therefore, today, we are looking at what we call necessity and obligation. When we talk of necessity and obligation, those are key words. They are the ones we are going to dwell on throughout this lesson. The word necessity simply comes from necessary, which means something you're supposed to do, or something you ought to do, or something you need to do. Then an obligation is something that you must do. So these two words are closely related, and we have structures that we use when we are describing necessity and obligation. Among them, we have need to. We use the word need to describe something that we are supposed to do. We use the word must when we are describing something which is compulsory. That is our obligation. We sometimes use ought to, and at times we use the word should. Remember, when we are learning about verbs in the lower classes, P3, P4, the teacher should have taught you that these words are also verbs. But in today's lesson, we are not using these words as verbs, but we are using them as language structures. What do I mean when I talk of language structures? I mean that we are using these words to rewrite sentences from one form to another, but without necessarily changing their meanings. So, when we talk of these structures, and we talk of the obligation, and we are constructing sentences to describe that these are things that we are supposed to do, or these are things that we must do, we always use these words. So in today's lesson, they are not verbs, merely verbs, but they are being used as language structures. So before you move on, you must take note that these words are closely related, though some are humbler. They appear humbler than others. If somebody says, you need to do this, it is a sign of humility. It's just advising. If somebody says, you must do this, it means giving you a command, an order. You ought to do, it is also a bit humble. But if he says you should do, it is another way of saying you must do. So we are going to look at a number of examples of sentences which we can construct using those structures. However, there are times when you do things and they are not necessary. And there are also times when you are being given warnings not to do certain things. And if you are in such a situation, whether you are being warned not to do something, That's what we call as removing the necessity. Removing the necessity simply means the sentences that we are going to look at in today's lesson will change from affirmative form to the negative form. Remember, the word affirmative simply means positive. But the word positive is more mathematical than English. We would like to use the word affirmative more often than positive. So, when we are using these structures in the affirmative form, this is how they appear to show necessity and the obligation. But whenever you are talking of removing the necessity and obligation, they are going to change into the negative form. That is to say, the word need to will change to needn't. And the sequence follows, as you can read for yourselves. So, we are going to look at a number of example sentences that we can construct using these language structures. But remember, our topic is about letter writing. So the sentences you construct, I construct, should be connected to our topic. Okay? Examples. I've told you that when we are using these words to describe necessity and obligation, there are times when we are just being warned, and there are times when we are just being asked politely, and there are times when we are just being told or commanded to do things. For example, take example number 1. If we say, candidates need to learn to write good letters. Candidates need to learn to write good letters. That's a good sentence. And it's an advice. I'm assuming it is Teacher Moses giving the advice to the candidates. You need to learn to write good letters. You need to. So the word need to here is being used as a structure. But the verb, the key verb we are talking about is to write. That's why the word need to here is not being used as a verb, because there is already a verb to write. Do you get me, my dear candidates? Take example number 2. Look at number 2. Would you please read it? Thank you very much. If the teacher says, we should envelope our letters before posting them, we should. The word should here is a polite way of saying must. The teacher is advising that before posting your letter, it is a must. To do what? To envelope it. Because there is no postman who will take a letter which is not enveloped. Remember, when we are looking at the vocabulary on letter writing, we looked at an envelope and the verb to envelope. To envelope simply means to put a letter in an envelope. And after putting it there, what do? Write. You seal the envelope before posting it. So the should here is the structure we are looking at. But the verb is enveloping. Do you follow me? Very good. Let's continue. Take example number 3. If we say we ought to reply our personal letters, the teacher is simply trying to give an advice. Here it is not a must. This is a kind way of saying it. We ought to. It is good manners for you to reply the letters that you receive. Okay? Though some people don't mind. They receive letters, read, and they don't mind. Okay? Take example number 4. When you say, you must obey your teacher's instructions, you must. Okay? Here, it is being used as an obligation. Okay? It is not merely a necessity, it is an obligation. You must obey your teacher's instructions. In a learning situation, if you don't obey the teacher's instructions, learning will not take place. However, what I wanted to explain is that all these words I told you are closely related. Among the examples we have just looked at, we have not used the word ought to. We have not used the word ought to very often. But it does not mean that when we use the word ought to, instead of need to, it changes the meaning. It does not change the meaning. These structures have the same meanings. Okay? So, look at the negative form now. This is what we call now removing the necessity. By removing the necessity, I mean, you are showing that it is not necessary. You shouldn't do this. Therefore, it is not necessary. That's what brings out the negative form. That's why we are having this word in bold, removing the necessity. Take example number 1. Candidates, read it. Very well. Very good. candidates mustn't use abusive language in letters. When we are introducing the topic of letter writing and we are looking at samples of letters, one of the instructions the teacher gave us was we shouldn't use abusive language in letters. It is not professional and it is not good because somebody will not read your letter if you are abusing him. Okay? Look at example number 2. If we say, she needn't post her letter before sealing it. I needn't post my letter before sealing it. You needn't post your letter before sealing it. He needn't post his letter before sealing it. She needn't post her letter before sealing it. So it's a warning to all of us. Okay? Next example. Example number 3, where we are saying you shouldn't buy many postage stamps now. Why? This sentence is trying to explain that it is not necessary to buy many postage stamps at this moment for some reason. That's why it is now bringing out the negative form. Our last example says we oughtn't to disrespect our teachers. Oughtn't and shouldn't are also words that are used to remove necessity, to show that something, you are being warned not to do something because it is not necessary at that moment. So remember, I've talked about the disrespect. In a learning situation, respect from a learner, the teacher, is very important. Likewise, even me as a teacher, I must respect you, my candidates. So when the activity has already happened, the administration is my candidates. When an activity has already happened, but it was a mistake, or it was not necessary, or it was dangerous, that's when we bring in a new tense called the past simple tense for activities that already took place. Now, when you look at these structures, they are being used in the negative form, but we have added a helping verb, have, everywhere. That's why you are seeing mustn't have, shouldn't have, needn't have, oughtn't to have, and didn't need to. All these ones are bringing the element that what we are talking about is in the past tense place, and we are regulating. Take examples. We are going to look at a number of examples. Okay? Look at number 1. You wrote a letter to the head teacher, but it wasn't necessary. We are assuming there was a letter that you wrote, but there was no need for you to write it. In such a situation, we are bringing it as a regret for an action that has already taken place. Therefore, when you are asked to write, I mean to rewrite this sentence using any of our structures, either needn't have, shouldn't have, the verb, which I have highlighted for you, will change to its past perfect tense. For example, what is the past perfect tense of the word write? Very good. It is written. So here, the subject of the sentence, remember I told you the word subject of the sentence means the main thing being talked about. Okay? In the sentence, the subject. So when you say you wrote a letter to the head teacher, but it was not necessary, the head teacher here is the subject of the sentence. And when you are writing this sentence, the head teacher is going to be the first word in the sentence. The head teacher is the object, sorry. The subject is you who is writing the what? The sentence. Okay? So, in such a situation, when you say you wrote a letter to the head teacher and it was not necessary, it is me warning you. Another way of saying it, I will simply say, you shouldn't have written a letter to the head teacher. I'm warning you. I'm regretting for having done something which was not necessary. So the necessity here is removed. That's what has brought the negative form. Another example, if we say it was very bad for Jane to use abusive language in her letter. It was very bad. Did Jane use abusive language according to that sentence? That's very true. She used. And it was very bad. That's why we are regretting. Therefore, Jane here is the subject of the sentence. Jane is the subject of the sentence. Therefore, the word Jane is going to appear as the first word. And we are going to say, Jane shouldn't have used abusive language in her letter. In the same way, we can also say Jane oughtn't to have used abusive language in her letter. Likewise, let's use mustn't. Very good. Jane mustn't have used abusive language in her letter. All those sentences have the same meaning. Though one sounds more humbler than the other. Okay? Take example number 3. Take example number 3. Do you know why we put the word to in a highlighted form? Yes, because it is the main verb in this sentence. And remember, our instruction is the main verb must change to its past perfect tense. And what is the past perfect tense of to? It is torn. Thank you very much. So when you say, you tore my envelope, and that was very bad, who tore? You, and you are the subject. Therefore, in another form, I would simply say, you shouldn't have torn my envelope. You shouldn't have torn my envelope. We don't go ahead to say that it was very bad. The element of shouldn't have is already bringing out the idea of being very bad. So it will be a repetition if you say, you shouldn't have torn my envelope because it was very bad. It is some kind of repetition. So simply, what do you say? You shouldn't have torn my envelope. You oughtn't to have torn my envelope. You mustn't have torn my envelope. All those sentences are correct. Look at example number 4, my dear candidates. There was no need for Edmund to reply such a nasty letter. We are assuming Edmund received a nasty letter, which anybody else shouldn't have replied. Therefore, in simple terms, Edmund, who is the subject of this sentence, shouldn't have replied such a nasty letter. The word reply, this one, has now changed to replied because the action took place. Okay? Edmund mustn't have replied such a nasty letter. Are we moving together, my dear candidates? Very good. We are moving on. We are moving on. Remember, when we are introducing this lesson, we said we use necessity and obligation for actions that have not yet taken place, but they are just merely coming as a warning, and also for actions that have already taken place and they are now coming as regrets. So in my activity, which we are going to do, I have brought all those. I brought some sentences which show that the action has not taken place, and others, the action has already taken place. But the instructions remain like we have explained in our examples. And I expect that you will be able to rewrite these sentences as instructed in the brackets. Those are not only questions, there are quite many, but let us look at number 4. Let us answer number 4 together. Number 4, we want to use it as and to add on the other examples, you need to buy a stamp and put on your letter before posting it. You need to buy a stamp and put on your letter before posting it. Have you already bought the envelope? No, it means that you have not bought the envelope. Therefore, this sentence is coming as a warning. Okay? The idea is either mommy or the teacher, whatever the case, is warning you. Okay? You need to buy a stamp and put on your letter before posting it. You have not yet bought. So in such a situation, can we use needn't have? No, because the action hasn't taken place. This is in the present simple tense. Okay? So how many of you think you'll be able to answer my questions correctly? Very good candidates. I expect that the next time I come to meet you, my good class, we shall go through these questions. There are 15. I want you to answer them carefully. In a situation where you fail to change some verbs from whatever tense to another tense, please use your dictionaries. Dictionary is part of a learning friend. You must always have it by your side. Okay? Thank you very much for listening to me. I expect the best out of my work. Keep safe, keep a distance, stay safe, sanitize regularly. If you don't have sanitizers, please use ordinary soap because we need you alive. Thank you very much. Meet again.